Hi again. Today we're going to be making creme brulee. The recipe I have is pretty easy and we're going to be making it a little bit more special by changing a little bit of sugar for maple syrup. So I have my ingredients ready and I have my assistant who wants to high five and probably lick my hand. Don't worry, I'm going to wash my hands before we start. So if you have any questions, let me know, and if you miss any step, just rewind the video. We are ready to start. Right, Jack? He seems very ready today. Boop. Our first step is going to be to measure our half and half right here. We're going to measure our 1 3/4 of a cup of half and half. So we open our container and we pour it in our measuring cup for liquids. There we go. Let's check. Yep. So 1 3/4 of a cup right there. We're going to place it in a saucepan on our stove. Let's see. Always clean your container with your spatula. And we're going to put it at medium-low heat until it bubbles. There we go. Meanwhile, we are going to get the 5 egg yolks outside of our eggs. So prepare a little container to place the egg whites and let's separate the yolks. You've seen me do it before with the shells, but we're going to try a different method today since there are 5 yolks, and you can try whichever makes you more comfortable. So let's place our 5 eggs in our little container first. There we go. And now with our hands that should be very clean, we are going to separate the yolks with our fingers. And Jack doesn't get to do it, I get to do it. So with our fingers, we separate the yolks. Something very important to keep in mind, the eggs you use have to be fresh. And you're gonna notice how fresh they are depending on how firm the yolk is. So if it's something that breaks in your fingers when you're trying to separate it, that egg is definitely not fresh. So try with your fingers to get the whites of the yolks. Some are going to be easier than others. And separate them in our little container. You can save the egg whites for a different recipe, or you can also save them for whenever you burn yourself cooking. And you just put some cold egg whites on the burn and it'll stop it from creating a blister or giving you a scar. That's something I do often. I learned it from my mom and it's a great tip for very mild burns. Okay, let's clean up over here. Save our egg whites. There we go. And let's continue our recipe. So we're going to combine our yolks with our sugar. So let's get our whisk ready. And we're going to do 3 tablespoons of sugar and some maple syrup. So let's measure our tablespoons over here. There we go. So using your tablespoon, we're gonna measure 3 tablespoons of sugar. Perfect. And now we are going to put our sugar away and do our little mix with our maple syrup. If you don't have maple syrup, you can do then 1/3 cup of sugar instead of the maple syrup, or like I said in this case, it adds a little something extra with the 3 tablespoons of sugar and 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. There we go. So we're measuring our tablespoons. Yep, 2. There you go. And we put it with our mix. Okay, now to add to this, we're also going to combine it with vanilla and salt. So let's do our 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And last but not least, we are going to add the 1/8 teaspoon of salt. So once again, our normal measuring spoons have the smallest measurement as 1/4. So 1/4 teaspoon is 1/8. Remember your fractions. So half of this quarter. And now we're ready to start whisking away. So let's get all this mixed. Make sure that the yolks combine with all our ingredients, and always keep an eye out for your 50/50. Now that our 50/50 is bubbly, we remove it from the stove and we're going to combine it with our yolks mix. So let's do this very slowly, but I'll fast forward since we're gonna do this carefully, making sure we don't get burned. You can do this always with a whisk. It's not really a good idea to use a handheld mixer because we don't want to be putting too much air into our mix. So it's better to use our whisk. Okay, and let's keep mixing to make sure that everything gets together evenly. The reason why I did this mix on my liquids measuring cup is because it's going to be easier to pour in the little molds later. Okay, so it is time to preheat our oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and in the meantime, let's put some water to boil. In our mold, we're going to be placing our little custard dishes. You can use between 5 to 6 depending on the size you have, and that's where we're going to be placing our little creme brulees. In my case, my custard dishes are a little bit bigger, so I'm going to use 5 instead of 6. And try to pour the mix as even as possible in all your containers. The standard dishes that you can use are about 6 ounces custard dishes. Like I said, the ones I got are a little bit bigger because they're for mini soufflés, and I think they're cute for creme brulees. Now that the oven is preheated, open it very carefully so that the heat doesn't leave the oven too fast. And we're going to be placing our baking dish in the middle rack. So you can try to do this before or after placing it. I'm choosing to do this after placing it in the middle rack. But we're going to be pouring the hot or boiling water in our baking dish. So let me try to do this way. Be very careful not to get burned. And we're going to pour the boiling water into the baking dish, trying to reach halfway through the little custard dishes or the souffle dishes in my case. So make sure that the water reaches pretty much the middle. And once that is all set, we can put these babies to bake. In they go. And as always, let's wish them luck. Bye, creme brulees! We're going to be baking them for 30 to 40 minutes. But obviously we're gonna start with 30 and checking up on them. Once the 30 minutes are up, we can check to see if the custard has already set. So we're going to use a kitchen knife or butter knife, whichever you have. And we're going to poke the center of our creme brulees to make sure that they're all set. So carefully we open the oven and we take our baking dish out a little bit and let the poking begin. Our knife should come out clean, or you can definitely see that the custard has set. Okay, they are definitely ready, and let's remove them from the oven and be very careful since you have to deal with the boiling water that is still in our baking dish. Let's put our little creme brulees to chill on a wire rack before covering them and putting them in our fridge. So let's put them over here. Make them even. And we're going to let them cool for a little bit. After like 30 minutes, they are cool enough so that we can put a little cover on all of them and put them in our fridge to chill for about 1 hour up to 8 hours. So I cut little aluminum foil tops for each of them so that I can have them individually in my fridge. Okay, now that I have them covered, we're gonna be putting them in the fridge. And in my case, I'll leave them overnight. Now let's caramelize some sugar before serving our creme brulees. So we're gonna be doing 1/4 cup of sugar for now and putting it either in a saucepan, or you can also put it in a skillet and do high heat or medium high heat and watching it constantly so that it doesn't burn. I'm going to be fast forwarding this process so you can see how long it took me, and I'm putting half of the 1/4 cup and then the other half. If you actually have a torch, you can try to do the regular way of sprinkling some sugar on top of your creme brulee and then using the blowtorch to melt it. But since I don't have one, this is how I'm gonna be doing it. And before you pour your caramelized sugar on top of your creme brulee, make sure to let it stand outside of the fridge for at least 20 minutes. You see how it's melting, and I keep stirring it up to make sure that it all melts evenly and it doesn't burn. You don't have to stir it, just make sure to shake it every now and then so that it melts evenly and it doesn't burn. Once you see that the sugar is pretty much melted and it's enough to cover your creme brulees, then you can turn off your stove and get ready to pour it on top of your creme brulees that should be out for the past 20 minutes. So I'm going to be preparing 3 of my 5 creme brulees and keep the other 2 in my fridge for later. So try to pour it when your caramel is still runny. And let's do this. You can also try to do this with a spoon. Just keep in mind that it'll harden very fast. There we go. Make sure to be careful because this is hot. I don't want you to get burned. Here are my 2 creme brulees that I'm going to be saving for later, and our 3 creme brulees that I'm going to be serving now. This is how they look in the fridge when they're cool. And this is how they look after pouring our caramelized sugar on top. There you have it. Thank you, Jack, for assisting me, and thank you guys for watching our creme brulee video. I hope that you like it, and see you next time. Say bye, Jack. Bye. Come on, wave, Jack. Bye, everybody. Thank you, my little kitty. See you guys.